All right, next up, Huntsman as a skill. Huntsman is probably the most straightforward build in the whole game, and it is very, very strong. Huntsmen have the unique advantage to almost always be in range, have a very, very high damage output, and through their auto click mechanic, they are not even very skill reliant, and that's probably the most important thing that you need to know. If you play a Huntsman character, high ground is nice and it definitely works, but you're not starting with Huntsman 10. Instead, you go Huntsman 2 and skill the 10 ability points into warfare. You are going to be an archer, and let's look at the probably most important skills for you for the beginning. Number one, I'd like to start with the defensive skills because it kind of is counterintuitive, but I still want to highlight first aid. First aid is a skill which you can gain for free through eating head in the first city. As an elf character, you can gain it relatively easy on a trainer. And I would like to highlight specifically the cure part of it. So it is one of the few skills that cures knockdown. Knockdown is probably one of the most common CC conditions from physical characters. So first aid is an excellent counter for only one point. It also reduces bleeding, burning, silence, and blind. Pretty shitty conditions all through the board. Plus, it lets you move if you have been crippled. If you have 1 point in Huntsman, which I highly recommend later through gear to skill and even have it in your skill bar, that is a definite help. As you can see, it doesn't scale with anything, so that's an important thing to notice as well. Most of the healing skills do not necessarily scale with an ability. Therefore, mark my words, this is a great ability that every character can use. Good. That's also the reason why I started with it. Huntsman has a wonderful secondary ability. The secondary ability is you gain a damage bonus based on your high ground. So Huntsman is a perfect opportunity for many of the casters as well as the archers to just gain some nice extra damage for standing on high ground. Huntsman is a wonderful second ability that you can maximize after you started maximizing warfare with a physical archer, or after you maximized your first casting tradition. Huntsman definitely adds to the mix. And if you look at most of the combats in the game, the majority of all combats have some sort of high ground advantage that you can take. So more often than not, you will get the bonus, and it is a very strong statical bonus that is just escalating more and more and more. The other good abilities, if you would go with a hunter build, are definitely the elemental arrowheads. I would recommend having that skill if you run with a elf hunter, which I recommend as an archer race. You could use blood sacrifice and even use the arrows with the blood. So that would, for 2 rounds, that would increase your physical damage even further. Other noticeable and great abilities are, again, tactical retreat. Keep noticing that most of them do not deal damage, but are just for positioning reasons. So this here is yet another really good ability to reposition yourself and giving yourself hasted in the next turn. Costs only 1, perfect ability. I would definitely recommend that also for other characters. Now, as for damage, the 2 abilities that I personally think are most valuable is number 1, by large and far, ballistic shot, because it receives a lot of damage bonus for longer distance traveled, wonderful opener, and it deals just an incredible amount of damage. Secondly, Skyshot, because with Skyshot you can even reach targets that are on higher ground, because you can leverage your position, you can reach targets that are far away, or you gain the nice little bonus for your high ground for 1 shot. So I would go with these 2 shots. The others are also nice, and I'm not going to deny that they have their place, but these 2 that I mentioned to you are definitely the ones that you probably want to start with. Little bit word of advice, because it is just something that that will probably help you later in the game. If you're into source abilities, the arrow spray ability is crazily strong. Contrary to the first belief, which would assume, so first of all, what does it do? It lets you fire 16 arrows in a large 60-degree arc. It doesn't only sound crazy, it is crazily strong. I highly recommend that combined with movement abilities. It costs you basically three action points. If you can get your overall action economy up to 5 action points, either by blood sacrifice or by being hasted and therefore having 5, or playing lone wolf, with the ability to tactical retreat and maybe even jump towards the enemy. Basically, the combination would look as following: you skydive towards the enemy, then directly stand next to it, losing all 16 arrows in the same enemy, and then moving back out. Even though you lose a little bit of damage due to not being on high ground, 16 hits simply means that that the enemy, specifically bosses, will take an incredible amount of damage, and you can almost one-shot everything with it, given that you have the right build. So that's a little bit a tip how I would use it. Huntsman, also a very nice school, can be combined and is not only archer related. That was kind of the message here. Let's go on to the next school.